Hey guys, hope you're keeping well. So I just sat down with my good friends Drew and Rod of Just a Ride. We spoke about the band's brand new album, self-titled, their debut, their tour in support of it, including the album launch show at the Black Heart in London. Make sure you get yourselves down to that. Their appearance, fortunately for me, at Just Push Play. So happy that Just a Ride are playing the festival. Songwriting behind the album, songs behind it, where they're going from here, plans for album number two, and everything else those guys have got lined up for the future. And you can see everything that Drew, Rod, and I had to say now. Yeah. And we're joined by my good friends Rod and Drew of Just a Ride. How you boys doing?
All good.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks for having us on.
Pleasure's all mine, man. Pleasure's all mine. So finally, as we air this, you will be releasing your debut self-titled album on February 25th. Man, this has been a long time coming for me. You guys had trusted me with the songs quite early on, and thank you again for it. I can't wait for this to be released, boys.
Mate, I was just going to say, it's been a long time coming for you. It's been a long time coming for us. Like, bloody hell. Yeah, it's like...
Actually, to be fair, Lee, you got the first day of anything actually officially from the album, because I think you played...
you played Start Over.
Start Over, yeah, really early on. Those were the album mixes.
That wasn't mastered at that point.
Yeah.
That was just that was a Sheldon master. It was just like he just kind of, it was just the mixes that came through. We're like, this is so good.
Sounded great, man. It sounded good enough for me.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, this will do. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be almost like when it actually comes out, it's going to be like a complete relief in some sort of ways. It's going to be like, right.
We basically had to put it off. We, I'm sure if people don't know, Drew kind of had long COVID, and it was really difficult. Yeah, it was really difficult for us to kind of like gig. And
it was the wrong time for it to come out anyway. It wouldn't have been a good, I'm glad we're doing it, not just for like my health reasons, but it was just, it just feels right now for it to come out. I think it's a much better time. We've had a bit more, push with like the new single. Things are opening up a bit more with gigs. I think if we'd done it in October, like Rod just, we wouldn't have had a gig really. It was still kind of felt a bit early days, and I think a lot of people have been doing that. A lot of bands have been pushing back their records because, well, I feel so for the ones that kind of already released their albums and then COVID hit. That's they couldn't bring it back. They couldn't, once it's out there, it's out. Whereas
there was a lot of gambles though as well, because when it all started, we were like, well, how long is this gonna last? Maybe people were going, well, let's put it out because maybe in 4 weeks we'll be back and we'll be ahead of the market. Like you just don't really know. I don't think anyone could foresee things dragging on this long. But it has provided bands like us and many that we meet a bit of an opportunity to build up a bit of online following, really spend some time writing, kind of honing your craft, so that when things do get back together, that you can really crack on. And touch wood, it feels like we're starting to get back to the old normal. It's about lots of things. It's about people being confident to go to gigs too. Definitely. We went to I don't know how you say this band name, right? It's basically pigs written 7 times. I don't know if you have to say pigs. Don't know if that's a play on Avenged Sevenfold. I don't know, but we went to see them, and it was a decent turnout. It was a decent
sold
turnout,
out at the Nottingham Rock City.
But at the same time, I had friends who were like, it's too close to, especially around Christmas. It was too close to Christmas. I'm not going to risk going to the gig. Like I was meant to go to see Enter Shikari with a bunch of friends. It was 20th of December. And we were like, we've seen Enter Shikari a fair few times. I don't want to get COVID before Christmas and miss seeing my family. So it would be interesting, because I'm pretty sure Shikari would be selling out or being very, very close to. But that was 8 tickets that didn't turn up, and it felt like that with the Pigs gig as well. So you want people to feel safe when they go to gigs, feel confident turning up.
I thought it was pretty good turnout though. Like it was pretty full.
Yeah, I think it was still a good turnout, but we had an extra 2 tickets that 2 guys didn't turn up for. So do you know what I mean? Like if we're anecdotally that, you know, I know Rock City when it's packed. And it's busier than that. I thought they had an amazing turnout, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure that they were victim to you know, people buying the tickets and deciding against it.
I think you're always going to get that this time, especially this time around, that we've had so many gigs getting cancelled, so many events being postponed. And then, like you say, when it was getting to more towards Christmas and there was the rumours of another lockdown coming in and all the other rubbish that no one wants to have to deal with again. I think you are going to get that. But equally, I do think it's, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm talking on my backside, but do you think it's giving you guys a chance to, you know, let the songs breathe amongst yourselves a bit and do any sort of thing that you might not have had the chance to do with them?
You know, it is interesting actually now when we're starting to get reviews back. And, you know, as a band, we're thinking ahead. So we're already, you know, we've already started recording, you know, tracks that essentially will make up album number 2. So it's kind of strange that, you know, we're putting this out and the vast majority of people have never heard any of these songs. Yeah. And, you know, we're getting these great reactions. We're getting some really great responses and people are really excited about it. And I think it's cool because it allows us to kind of, you know, we've really sat with the album a long time. We kind of, you know, we know it inside out, and it's giving us an opportunity to kind of come back to it and go, oh yeah, there's a lot of really, really cool stuff on there. And it feels like it's given us an opportunity to really enjoy those songs again. Now that it's, you know, that it's going to be out and available to the wider world.
I mean, especially myself, like, you know, I edited the album, you know, you know, it's like I had to put it all together, you know, and I was sat here, literally here this is my studio. You can't see my speakers and stuff like that, my monitors and stuff, but it, you know, just day and night, just playing, you know, playing my guitars, making sure, and making sure everything's like right, but like you can really do yourself in doing that. You don't want to overcook it, you know. And I think maybe
no, you don't want to do a Chinese democracy, do you?
No, you want to let it, you know. And it sounded great, you know, and it did sound good. And when we sent it off to get mixed, you know, I let it go. Then I just was like, Chris Sheldon, do your thing, and he did a great job. And it's nice, you know. I listen to it now and I'm like, that's great, you know. That's exactly what I want to hear, and I hope that other people want to hear too. You know, it's a tough one, you know, especially when you are doing things yourself. You know, you're so involved with it, you have to kind of like step away from it every now and again and just be like, whoa, is this good? Is it good? Is it not? Is it good? I think maybe lockdown maybe gave us the time to, I think the reason the songs are really good is because we really went through it all with a fine-tooth comb, didn't we, Rod? Like sections, like, is that too long? Is that short? You know, the structures, especially the structures, it gave us the time to be like, is this right?
Or is it killer, or is there filler? And I think, you know, and that is actually something I think we've really taken into our songwriting process in general. I think in the past we might have stuck around with filler for a bit longer than we would, or we might already be starting to play the songs live or rehearsing them. Whereas I think now we're very much like, do you know what? Cut all the nonsense out, because record and live are 2 different things. You can always play extended versions of your songs live. I mean, a band who are really good at doing that, Red Hot Chili Peppers, every time I've been to see them, like they'll chuck in some jams and some really amazing grooves into the songs. If that was on all the records, people would just get bored. But when you're at the gig, you're like, oh wow, this is awesome. Yeah, you know, it's about building the performance.
Yeah, different ball game, isn't it, when it's live, like you say.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. Yeah, and they're like old school bands. So it's good that they can do that, you know. But not a lot of the new bands don't. You know, they don't deviate, and they just play what's on record. And you're like, well, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe try it a bit differently. You know, like Rod said. You know, it's like. But certainly with the album, we were like, I know this is going to sound really cheesy and corny, like to say this, but like Rod probably meant it as like a funny sort of joke, but he sort of went like, "We need to make a grunge thriller," and I went, "What?" I was like, but I know what he meant.
You know what he means
like,
from that, though, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, we need to make like, you know, every song just needs to stand on its own. Like, you need to. It's that thing. It's like, do all these songs, do they work together, and also do they stand on their own? You know, like it's.
I mean, just as from a listener's point of view, man, I think they definitely do. When you sent me over the tracks, I was re-listening to the album again the last couple of days, obviously knowing that I was going to be talking to you dudes.
Yeah.
And obviously, I love the intro, the first track. I thought that was cool. The weird little kind of
The
merry-go-round intro. I thought that was quite.
Yeah. Well, originally that was going to be. We weren't too sure whether to put that as part of the track originally.
All right.
Because originally, like when I demoed that up, there was actually a different version of it with a different intro. But,
all right.
Yeah, but we changed it for certain reasons. But essentially, the idea with it was to be like a bit eerie. You know what I mean? Like a little bit, just a bit weird and creepy, isn't it? It's like that juxtaposition kind of thing where you're like, something's about to happen, but it's like you don't know what it is, but it's just something a bit horror movie, something a bit creepy about the whole thing, really. And then obviously it fades in with the radio, and it gives you the Bill Hicks speech. And I always love things like that with records, like intros to albums. And
I do as well, like little stuff and like that. I mean,
I don't know, Rod, like name some.
Oh yeah, like I think Psycho Circus by Kiss has got a really, really good intro. Like, The Offspring, like they always did funny, you know, again, a completely different thing, but they always did their funny little intro tracks. And to me, like when I first listened to those albums, you know, like Americana, Conspiracy of One, it was like, what is the intro going to be? And it just kind of, and I think what it does as well, it kind of subverts your expectation. And I think that's what this one does as well, because it's kind of quite mellow. And then you know, the words come in and then it's like, bang, and you're in.
All crashing in the face, isn't it? So
yeah, I think that was the idea. I wanted something. Yeah, that was kind of my thoughts when I was doing it. Even from day one, that song, I think I read that song like years ago, didn't we, Rod? Like a few years ago now.
Yeah.
Like I always had that weird kind of idea. Like I was like, I want something weird in the intro, and then we sort of turn it into like the Bill Hicks speech and stuff. And you know, and we sort of use that live. You know, I'm sort of trying that live at the moment, so it can all kind of come crashing in at the same time. So
you're using that as like as an intro thing live as well?
Yeah, I think so. We've tried it. You know, I don't know yet. We're sort of trying some different ideas.
We have like an extended version of that.
Of that, or I don't know. We'll talk about it, but it's, you know, I still like Ben's remix of Razor. I think that would be a cool intro. Do you know what I mean? Like something weird like that. I don't know. There's lots of different things you can do, you know, and that's the great thing about it. I had something different before, but I always like an intro because it sets the mood for the gig, and it sets the mood for the album. It sets the whole the expectation, the hype, you know. And
I think something that's a bit weird actually is that although we're a grunge band, and we were talking about this the other night on live stream about how, you know, back in the day when grunge started, you couldn't like Bon Jovi and Poison and like Alice in Chains and Nirvana. It was like, no, you're either you know, a heavy metaler or you're a grunge person. Whereas, you know, we weren't around the first time it came around, and we love both of those genres. And I think, you know, some of our big influences, Kiss, Bon Jovi, like we want to kind of bring that kind of performance energy to it. Do you know what I mean? And have that kind of, when people see us live, and listen, you know, at the moment we're playing small places, you know, and probably to small crowds, but our inspiration does come from, you know, that kind of theatrical performance, that kind of, you know, you're going to see a show. And I think that starts with the intro, and
I think that also came across in your videos, though. The performances, the videos you released in the singles felt more not theatrical, obviously to the point of Kiss with makeup or anything, but it felt like a grandeur thing than necessarily, you know, your stereotypical grunge video in a barn somewhere or something like that. You know, you had more of a storytelling aspect to it in your videos. Yeah,
you know, and I think it's all about, you know, it's like everything in like modern music. It's about a look, it's about a vibe, and we try and get that across in kind of everything we do. And it's going to be really exciting getting out on the road and playing, because we haven't, you know, to be honest, we haven't really toured Just a Ride before. We've done lots of like little sporadic gigs. Every time we'd build momentum, something would happen, and we would you know, put it off. So, you know, the fact that I think we've got sort of like 10 or 15 gigs lined up in the next 2 or 3 months, obviously, you know, being kind of an independent band, you know, we would love to just do, you know, 3 weeks solid on the road. That's just not how the world works at the moment. And it's definitely not how the world works for us. But, you know, just to be able to get that momentum going, get to kind of go out there, meet people, play the songs, and really allow the songs to come into their own. Like, I always love listening to bands' live albums, because you tend to hear what they've kind of tweaked in those songs, what has become of those songs when they're on the road. I think that's a really cool thing. I remember speaking to, I can't remember who it was, but we were talking about, you know, usually you play you write a song, right? You maybe play it at a few gigs, you then go and record it, and then you'll play it on the road for a few years. And if you could have just recorded the version you play on the road after 2 or 3 years, where do you know what I mean? You really know it inside out. I'm sure it would just be like the next iteration of the song. But I guess that's what live albums.
You find that with most bands. I was always like, you know, go back to the Bon Jovi thing. I was always a fan of Bon Jovi live. Like, their songs on the record are just totally different live.
Oh, completely.
They're just faster, and they're just like more energy. And it's just like, you listen to like Lay Your Hands on Me. It's like, talk about album intros, probably one of the best album intros of all time. Like, you know, just the tribal drum thing. Just wow, great idea.
I mean, when I saw Bon Jovi on their Crush tour, last show they did at Wembley, they opened up with "Lay Your Hands on Me." So they
amazing. So they had the whole
with just a whole tribal drum, just deep go to their ears.
But they used to play that a lot faster live, you know, and just more energy, and they're just a different animal live. And every band is, you know, you can't. I think people spend so much time trying to replicate, you know, in the studio, but it's hard. I think you should get it as close as possible. You know, don't go too off the ball, but it's you know, because people want to hear the songs, but you know, don't do reggae versions of your songs. You know?
That's your reggae band.
Yeah, well, yeah, there is that. You know. But yeah, you just got to be good live, I guess. Just be powerful and just like blow everyone away. You know, like from what I've learned in previous bands, anyway, and things like that. You know, you just be good live, and when you're good live, people just, you know, people will come.
This is it. There's been bands that on record that I've not particularly clicked with, and then for whatever reason I've either caught them at a festival or caught them supporting
Nickelback for me with that band.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I saw them support Bon Jovi, and I was like, years ago, like on the Crush. No, Have a Nice Day tour.
Just Have a Nice Day, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I saw them at Milton Keynes, and my brother was like, "They've got this."
Oh God, it was the same gig then.
Yeah, it probably was. My brother was like, "They've got this new drummer. He's called Daniel Day. He's like amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, come on, dude, it's Nickelback, you know." Like, and that's become one of my favorite records, All the Right Reasons. I think that is their best album. I still think it's their. They went a bit Mutt Lang after that. They went a bit like.
Don't you think though with Nickelback, it's like they're the band everyone loves to hate, but the reason they hate them is because they are actually great. I mean, Chad Kroeger is a songwriting colossus.
They play the radio game really well. I mean, you know, they release, you know, the Some Days and How You Remind Me and all that kind of thing, and then you go deep on like Side of a Bullet or Animal, or you know,
Animal's my favorite song. They opened with that, and I was like, "What's this?" And that was it. I was in. I bought that album, and I was like, to me, that's because I remember them coming out like when I was at college, but I was always a bit like, oh, this is part of the new metal thing. This isn't really like, you know, this is just cheesy Canadian rock, you know, as it was. But those first 3 albums, like those albums, like they did with that album. What's that album called? Silver Side Up.
Silver Side Up, in it, yeah.
And they did one after that, and they did a cover of an Elton John song, didn't they? And
they did a cover of Saturday Night's All Right.
Saturday Night, it's really like full on, you know.
Yeah.
But the album, like All the Right Reasons, I think is like the pinnacle. I was just like, that's fantastic, you know. I put them on par with Jovi at that gig. I was like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where the support act came up, and you went, and even though the main event's Bon Jovi, you go, you better be bringing it tonight, boys.
Yeah, come on, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, Bon Jovi. That was a good tour. That I was Have a Nice Day tour. It was really good.
Yeah, it was great.
I'm trying to think if I saw them on that tour. Did they play Hyde Park that time, or I'm thinking it might have been Circle.
They played Hyde Park on Circle.
They played Hyde Park.
They played Hyde Park on Bounce. I saw them on that. And then they played. They were supposed to play. That was it. They were supposed to play Wembley Stadium, and it got postponed it got moved because they were still building.
Still building it.
And he was really annoyed.
Because it was the thing, because when I saw him on the Crush tour, it was the last show at Wembley, the old Wembley.
And he wanted to be the first one to
First
open
to
Wembley.
play the new, yeah.
Yeah. It was like,
There we go. Never mind, John.
never mind. But I want to go back in time and see him on the Jersey tour. You know, they were the days. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, that's something we were talking about, where it was like, I was showing my little daughter like great music essentially. So I was playing her like all these old music videos, and I obviously showed her "Living on a Prayer."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Why can he fly?" I was like, "It's because he's got the power of rock. It's because he's got the big hair, the tassels on his jacket. When he rocks so hard, he can just fly." And I was just thinking, like, you know, going back to the whole grunge thing, it's like, how much better would grunge have been, right, if you were watching Alice in Chains and like all of a sudden Jerry Cantrell flew into the crowd while he was playing guitar?
I don't know. I don't know if that works or not. The thing is with like the 80s bands, they sort of had godlike status, didn't they? They were like they were like the untouchables. I think grunge made it okay to sort of just grunge.
Yeah, they were the everyman, weren't they? It was like anyone who can play guitar. You know,
Dave Grohl's a great example of that. It shows that you can do it. Oh, we can too. You know, it wasn't like, not saying like, you know, everyone can, but like Dave Grohl's an absolute legend and talent in himself. You know, and people forget that. You know, but it's like the guys in the 80s they were like demigods. You know, that was a very different.
It's a whole other level, wasn't it? Really?
You know, my favorite video from that era, just of 80s arena rock excess, is Yankee Rose by David Lee Roth.
Yeah, with Steve
Vai. My goodness, like that looked like a show. When Steve Vai does his forward rolls, like, oh my, what is going on? This is incredible.
So I missed all that when that came out. Like, I was too young at the time, but like I remember like because I've got an older brother, so he was always feeding me all the music. This is how, you know, you just get fed all this music, and it's like he was like, it was Bon Jovi, Europe. He was a massive Europe fan. So Countdown was out at the time. I was like 3 or something, but 4. I was really young. But it was like Countdown and Bon Jovi. It was like Europe and Bon Jovi. But everything else kind of sort of fell into place. Like maybe Whitesnake. It was more that side of it. David Lee Roth wasn't really. Van Halen wasn't in my house, you know. So I missed Van Halen, but I had Extreme, you know, and I had Steve Vai. I had Steve Vai more Whitesnake era.
Yeah.
That was that kind of thing for me. Like, that's a really unpopular album for like Whitesnake fans. They're just like, they hate that record, don't they? Like proper Whitesnake fans are like, no. That's
but there's
not
certain records that the fans hate that I really, really like.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
For
I'm
me,
like that with the Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
One Hot Minute is their best album.
But
everyone else is like, no, it's Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction. I'm like, that's why it's great.
Yeah.
And it's got Airplane on it and like Coffee Shop and just these great tunes on it.
I always have a ongoing joke of any kind of Motley Crue fan that I think the best Motley Crue album is the one they did without Vince Neil.
Mate, John, that is a great. That's what I mean. It's weird, isn't it? Like those records, you just kind of go. People just go, "Oh, it's not Motley Crue." You go like, "Well, it is, and it's awesome."
Yeah.
You know, just because it's not got, you know, Vince Neil singing, and they just.
Which is a bonus.
Karabi, you know, and I think it's it is their best, probably one of the. That
I think it's my favorite.
Records. Yeah, it's by Bob Rock, isn't it? You know, you can just go like, well, Bob Rock produced them, but it's interesting, all that stuff, you know. Oh, what was the Aerosmith album that I got into recently? I was saying to you about. I fucking love it. It's like just push play. You're like,
yeah, that's great.
This is a great album. Like,
it's not completely overlooked as well. Like really
overlooked me. Really, I remember going through, but it had Jaden on it, and that is a great song. And that reminds me, that's a real Stone Temple Pilots style song when you listen to it. It's kind of got the
well, we were talking about Aerosmith. Like I sent you a text last night. I was actually on an Aerosmith binge last night.
They postponed their tour, haven't they, again?
Yeah, I know. Then you wonder, are they going to...
I really want to go and watch it, because it's the final... I reckon it's going to be their final tour.
Probably. I mean, you know, Steven Tyler's 73, Joey Perry's 70.
They are literally my dad's age.
But dude, like, I was looking at this, and it's like... Steven Tyler was 39, I think, when Dude Looks Like a Lady. Dude Looks Like a Lady came out.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's nuts. And then you think like he was 50 when Don't Want to Miss a Thing came out. Yeah. And actually, you know, of course, Aerosmith were big in the 70s, but Aerosmith were at their peak in probably that like
late 80s, early 90s.
Early 90s.
No, 90s when you had like Pump.
I'm not really a fan of the 70s. I think the problem is that's a generational thing.
Yeah.
Like like Bon Jovi and all that will say Aerosmith will say they love Aerosmith, but they love Toys in the Attic.
Yeah.
You know, they love those records. And I've listened to that album, and believe me, I've tried. But it's like it's a different time, so the production's gonna be different.
Oh.
I like things like Sweet Emotion. I like those types of tunes and bits and bobs, but like it's definitely like, you know, when you listen to Pump, you're like, guys, like this is just.
And that goes back to what you're saying about the intros, because they have all the little interludes in Pump.
Yeah,
they do.
Oh.
What's Pump open with? I know.
Fine.
Yeah, but what's the intro? Well, I know they open with. I love Get a Grip. It opens with it. That's a tribal thing.
Yeah,
Meet the Rich, isn't it? The
yeah, and
then stuff like that.
You got that, and then Steven Tyler doing his little rap before it goes into Eat the Rich, haven't you?
It's his harmonies. It was like chatting to the other day. I was probably my wife just boring her in the car with like Aerosmith trivia or something like that. But I was just saying about their songs, and I was just going, listen to their songs and how good they are. The only thing this is going to be really controversial. You don't have to air this if you don't want to. I think the only thing that ruins it is the guitar solos. I just think, but Joe Perry's just Joe Perry. He's just very sort of sleazy with his playing.
Yeah, it's very.
Because I'm a Richie Sambora fan. I like a structured solo. I don't know if you noticed that in the Just the Right album. All my solos are they're written for the song. You know, they're very written for the song. Whereas, you know, Who You Are, like, do you remember writing that? So we sort of wrote that with the producer, didn't we, Rod?
Yeah.
You know, where we kind of, you know, we structured the song. But I find with the Aerosmith stuff, it's just like he's just gone in and winged it. But I find their actual songs, you know, when you talk about Pump and all that kind of stuff, it's like, it's just night and day. You know,
oh yeah, you got all the way from like Voodoo Medicine Man all the way right through to My Girl to What It Takes, and
yeah, I mean, it's just...
you don't find I kind of Aerosmith and Kiss really cross over to me, because they just have eras that are so different. If you go for 70s Aerosmith, it sounds like a different band. Like
Kiss as well.
Yeah,
I'm just not. I just don't. You know, and then you go and listen to Revenge, and you're just like, this is amazing. You know, and
every time you say the word revenge, I just hear that.
Oh, what? Yeah, Unholy.
I think it's because I had the Kiss Revenge DVD. It was like a documentary.
Mate, they were in their
about
mid-40s
Kiss
when they did Revenge.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but dude, like,
all right.
what they're doing is like it smash cuts to like Gene, and he says something, and then it like goes to like, I don't know, some like, I don't know, probably like scantily clad ladies, and it goes dun 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 dun, and then it goes like whoosh, back to Paul, and he's like, yeah, we just got to keep pushing ourselves, and then it goes dun 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 dun. It's just, yeah. So I just hear that a lot.
Oh, that documentary. But
yeah,
what bands
brilliant.
have that now? Like that longevity where they can kind of keep.
Coldplay.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that as a joke, but Coldplay have really evolved their sound. I'd possibly even say Muse to a lesser extent. But if you listen to what was their first album called, Showbiz, which I think is a brilliant record,
yeah, great album,
is completely different, even to the Origin of Symmetry.
Yeah, even the Origin of Symmetry is different.
Yeah, hugely
different.
On
that tour, the Origin tours. But yeah. So what were we talking about? Sorry, we're just going off about Aerosmith now. Yeah,
we're on a little tangent about Aerosmith. This is me, mate. That's fine.
Just press play. Like, what's that? There's a song on there called I really love, called it's just huge. Oh, there's a girl living
under my skin.
What a song.
Yeah.
It's got mist in it. Like, what a great song.
Stuff out and out of your head and all the rest of it. Why do you think I call my festival after it?
Yeah.
Well, when I spoke to you, I thought you called it after STP, because they had their opening track to flipping hell. My favorite album.
Number 4. You're wearing a
the
t-shirt.
one before that. No, the one.
Tiny Music.
Tiny Music. Of course it is. And it's got the opening track. It's called Just Press Play. It sounds like elevator music, and they're just like.
And it was a little nod back to my dad, because obviously that's what the festival's for. And
yeah.
It was the first band he took me to see, so that's
amazing. What year was that? Where was that?
Again, old Wembley Stadium on their 9.
The Twin Towers Ball.
Yeah, Twin Towers Ball. Yeah,
my mate went to that.
Yeah,
3 Colours Red supported, didn't they?
Yeah, 3 Colours Red opened it up.
Wow.
Black Crowes.
Lenny Kravitz, wasn't it?
Lenny Kravitz, and then Aerosmith. Yeah.
What a lineup!
Yeah, don't see that anymore, do you?
You know, you go to that when you're 11 for your first gig, and the next gig you
play your head off.
Yeah. It was just absolutely mental. And then next gig we went to was like, I think we went to see Motorhead at the Norwich Waterfront, which was like, as much as I love Motorhead, completely polar opposite. I'm going, where's the rest of the bands? Because there's only Motorhead and one support.
Mate, that sounds like it would be an awesome gig though. Like to see them at like quite an intimate venue.
Oh yeah, I mean, Motorhead used to play the UEA all the time in the Waterfront when I was studying there. They were always coming up round.
Oh, wow.
It was that kind of jokey thing you used to have amongst mates at uni. Oh, it's November, so Motorhead will be playing soon, because they always did. But speaking of live shows, though, boys, you've got your one of the Black Heart coming up for your album launch show.
Yep.
So
man,
got some great support as well. I was checking out obviously some support acts I had not heard before. Some of them, I admit.
Yeah, I mean, that was Rod and his amazing discoveries, for these gigs. Apart from the Andover show, which is my hometown, so I just got all my local mates to get their bands together. But that'd still be good though. I think actually that's good. That's a good lineup. But Rod likes to go out and sort of discover all these bands, and we're taking one of them on. Well, I've just booked the van today for we've got a split van we're doing a little Scotland run. Well,
oh nice,
2 shows. We're doing Glasgow and Edinburgh. We're like, should we get a van? Like, yeah, go on. And but we're taking up. What's the name of the band we're taking up?
The Timeouts.
We're taking them up with us.
They're like
we're supporting them, aren't we, in Nottingham?
Yeah, so we we're kind of like trying to build that whole like grungy community where we kind of share gigs. So like going back to the Black Heart gig, obviously, like we at the end of the year we supported Amongst Liars, who are a great band. And they're returning the favour. They're going to be main support for us at the Black Heart. They've got some great tunes. Kill the Tide is a banger.
Great band, lovely guys as well. Have you played their stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of Amongst Liars. Yeah, I've played a couple.
Yeah. They're great, and the guys are great. They're lovely.
I've not had the pleasure of meeting them yet, so.
Yeah, they're really cool, really good guys.
And then we've got
they've written a great album,
And then we've got Solkura, who are, I guess, part of this like emerging wave of British grunge bands. I think who is it? Paul from Black Orchid Empire produced their album.
Oh right, okay.
Sounds really good. They've got some really good songs. They got and they're another one that kind of been supported by Spotify, and they've been on as a cool list for anybody who loves or is looking for new grunge bands, called Smells Like Stream Spirit. And Solkura have been there on a fair whack, and it's been a really good resource for bands like us to kind of essentially reach a global audience. But yeah, those guys are great. And then the openers I really rate. I cannot wait to see them live. They're called Stereotyped. They
were one of the ones I hadn't heard until obviously saw that they were opening for you guys. So.
Yeah. They've got this. I mean, the first tune they did was called, I think it's called The Only One, and they're teenagers, and there is like a real, I would say it's more of a Silverchair vibe than a Nirvana vibe, but I'm sure a lot of people go, oh, it sounds like Nirvana, but it's like, I really think it's Silverchair. And what I really liked about it was the bass really had a tone that reminded me of New Order. And these guys are from Manchester as well. And, it really felt like if Manchester did grunge, like when I heard them. And yeah. Munge. Leading the charge. But yeah, so it's like 3 awesome bands. It's going to be a big night, I think. I just can't wait.
It's all these bands. I mean, like, we're all really at the same level. It's like, just because we're headlining it, it's like we're still a new band. So it's like it's important to kind of build these types of communities and the problem I found when I was in the other band was that I'd never really felt that like there was no with a certain radio station there's no kind of it's just a lot of the same.
You want to build like camaraderie, and I think
want to build
that's
like
where...
some kind of thing together, don't you? And build a little.
Like you say, it's like a little community almost. I mean,
because you all work together. No one's against each other. You're all just like there's no.
And you have no airs and graces. Do you know? Like I've no problem opening for anyone. Do you know what I mean? It's about what it's about is it's about try to build like a movement, try to build a community and say like, we're all in this together. We're all going to support each other. And we just want to get people into this sort of music.
Yeah.
I think it's weird because I think on some level, we could probably just about fit into the whole new wave of classic rock thing, which has been amazing. And like, it's uncovered some really, really great bands, and it's given opportunities. We're talking pretty soon, we're talking pretty soon after Scarlet Rebels did amazing in the UK charts. Just shows there's an audience out there who are hungry for more. The thing is, I think like probably our sound maybe doesn't quite fit exactly. So, if we can start a similar thing with, I don't know, maybe like a new wave of British grunge. That'd be amazing.
How would you, new wave of British grunge? New
Well, you could just say that.
New Wubug.
Well, you don't need to, but I mean, like, new wave of classic rock isn't an acronym that you say.
I know. I remember the first time hearing that, I was like, what? It was like, we're doing an interview, and I was like, what's that?
How can it be new and classic?
Yeah, new wave of, yeah. It was like new core. They kept calling it new core, and I was like, what? But then new wave of British heavy metal, wasn't it? That was New Wobbum.
New Wobbum.
New Wobbum is a great acronym.
New Wobbum. I never knew that, but it was only my mate Dave said that. He was like, oh yeah, New Wobbum. Like, that was like Maiden. I was like, what? Yeah, like back in the day, like that's what they called it. Like, it was like the post-punk. It was like after punk, so it was like New Wobbum. Like,
New Wobbum sounds like some sort of town that has a spa retreat.
It does, doesn't it? Where do you live? New Wobbum.
From New Wobbum.
That's amazing. New Wobbum.
Go for a weekend away in New Wobbum.
Yeah, we're for a weekend away in New Wobbum.
I'm sure it'd be a great weekend though.
I'm sure it'd be brilliant.
Mate, if it's full of Maiden and Priest, we're going to have a great night out.
Definitely. You say about the community thing, though, it's definitely there. I mean, from my point of view, with Just Push Play, you'll see yourselves when you boys play, but there are a couple of dressing rooms, but there's basically one big open hall, and there's no egos, there's no bullshit. It's everyone's the amount of times I'm introducing a band, and I'll look to the side of stage and someone else is watching them because they're mates of them, but they're also playing. It's just really cool to see, what I mean? That level of support and community is really cool.
And it's great, and not just from like bands, it's like from you, do you know what I mean? Like you guys, and having, there's so much, what we're learning, there's all these radio stations coming through, these newer stations, and they're just totally supporting.
Oh, what I love is there's through doing this show, I've got to know some people who are on the independent stations in Wales and Scotland and all over the country. And the amount of times because we've just contacted because we both happen to play a sort of rising band, and they go, oh, cool, yeah, I play them on my show, and we follow each other, whatever. And the amount of times I'll get this guy Matt, who's over in Wales, it was a great show. He'll quite often message me going, Lee, have you heard these guys? And vice versa, I'll do the same to him. And it's really cool to like you say, have that support. And it goes back to being no competition. No, he's not trying to out battle me. He's in Wales. My show doesn't matter to him.
Yeah.
And equally, there's plenty of there's plenty of room at the table. There's I think that don't get me wrong, there's some bigger stations, and we all know the one I'm talking about, but they don't do as much to support the rising scene as I think they should. And there's some great other alternative, independent stations that do. And I think it's great that everyone amongst it isn't in for competition and trying to glory hunt. They just, like you guys want to build up the community amongst the bands, we want to build up the community amongst the radio stations. That's the way it goes.
Well, our new single has just had it's been played on over 600 radio stations. 600
plays across radio stations, but that's still pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's nuts.
It's like, wow, cool, amazing. It's like, it's just having that support for the local, because these are the, it's the next music, isn't it? It's like, it's, you can keep supporting the same bands, I suppose, but
Gets stale.
Yeah.
I mean, like, every pretty much every week on our Instagram, I do a little segment called New Week, New Music, and if anything, it was a challenge to me to go, you know, for 5 years running, when you get your Spotify end of year, it's the same bands that you're listening to all the time. And you're thinking, well, when I was a teenager, I used to love discovering new music.
Yeah.
And new music is easier now to discover than ever before. Why am I not doing it? And you know what? Like, I listen to that playlist. You know, I add the songs to like the Spotify playlist every week. And, you know, people have started following the playlist and listening to the playlist, and that's great. But yeah, there's some really cool bands on there.
Mine was Dinosaur Pileup. I was like, why have I not heard this band?
I only heard them guys towards the tail end of last year, and I couldn't believe it took me so long to hear it.
I was like, this is incredible. It was Nicky that put me onto them. He was like, you made a grunge play. I'll have to send it to you, actually, Lee. Like,
yeah, do it, man.
It's really cool, like grunge playlist. And I was like, and I was going with the car. It was when Nicky filled in for us when we did like a live stream last year. And we were just in the car, and he's just going, check out this band, check out this band, check out this band. And I was just like, this is great. Like all these bands. And I was just like, you know, I try and support, because I still support, like, do you remember the band Reuben? Yeah. So I support, like, I really like Jamie Lemon, and he goes out and does his own things and stuff like that. And I bought a couple of his records because I think he's just a phenomenal songwriter. I
think he's one of the greatest songwriters going.
I think, yeah, like he's just amazing. And I was always a big Reuben fan. And again, there was an album that Chris Sheldon did, like he mixed, like, and I really liked that album, Very Fast, Very Dangerous. I thought it was a great record. And I saw Reuben years ago, like support Biffy, it was like Vex Red, Reuben, and Biffy Clyro. It was like, wow. At the Wedge Room, he's like, you know, no one watching him, but it was just a great show. In fact, I'm in one of their music videos, like just from that, like they did like a live at the Wedge Room, me and my mate Steve. And and so I'm a big follower of his. Like he's fantastic. But so I like doing that. I like following bands after their careers, like if they still kind of, you know, keep going doing the solo stuff. But to follow like newer bands, you know, that is the key really to find. It is hard. You do get a bit like Rod said, you just have the same 20 songs you've had on since 2002, and as much as you love those, it is a bit like, hang on a minute, like what else is out there? And when you discover these new bands, you're like, actually,
it's on your toes as well as
a writer. You know, like you're at a festival.
Go on, Rod. So I was saying, it keeps you on your toes as a writer as well, because you go, wow, there's some really cool stuff going on.
It makes you go, oh, you know, oh yeah, there's some really good stuff. Let's rip that off.
You know, it's been nice to see that community grow. I'm so lucky that I get stuff sent to me. There's nothing that excites me more than when I get a new single, maybe from a band I haven't even heard of, or being at a festival and thinking, I've always done the same thing. If there's no one on the main stage that I want to see, I'll go and get myself a beer and I will go amongst the small stages until I find something that clicks, and then I'll sit and watch a set. And I've always been saying that's how I've got into a lot of bands that I have.
Yeah.
You know, equally seeing, you know, Belva Revolver download was one of the best things I've ever seen in my life.
I bet that was just incredible, and there's, you know, nothing wrong with that, you know, but it's nice to just watch the underdogs and catch them before they become the big dogs, because you catch them at a time where it's like they're just really hungry and fighting for it. And you know, I've got an old lanyard from Reading 99 when I was like 16 years old, and it's got at 12 o'clock opening the tent Coldplay. and some other stage at the same time at 12 o'clock opening up the other small tent Muse, you know. And it's before you even just know who they are on the map. If you could have a time machine, you go back in time and watch it. But I've caught a few bands like that over the years. I think you have too, haven't you, Rod? Like you just catch them when they're just like Biffy was. I've seen Biffy in front of 5 people, and they performed it like it was like, the reason they're a big band is because they've
always performed that way, haven't they?
They performed like they're in arenas, but in front of 5 people.
Oh yeah, like Enter Shikari are a band like that. I mean, we at the time I was in a band in the same local scene, and they were just doing things that were just different. You know, it was let's have a laser show in like a small pub. You know, but I tell you what, and also their music did stand out at the time. They were really exploring that kind of mix of electro and metal. But if the music didn't catch your attention, the light show did. And I remember doing it. I think we were even playing with them, and they bought like those like little laser pens.
Yeah.
they bought hundreds of them just to give away for free to the people in the crowd. So that when they played, there were just lasers going everywhere. And it was like, and I was just thinking like old school thinking, like, what waste of money? Like, but like when they were telling me about it, I was like, you spent how much on lasers for one show? But you know, it's about reinvesting in things, you know, and spending the money to make the impact. Because I tell you what, anybody who was I think it was at the Pioneer Club in St Albans, anybody who was at that show, you know, and it was like a venue where a lot of young kids might go for their first gig without parents going. They'll never forget that.
Mate, that place was also,
Oh,
I used to teach there because through the school I was teaching at like years ago, and Shikari reinvested back into it, and they basically, like, there's a stage with a full-blown PA system in there now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like,
oh, wow.
I think they own it now, or they have something to do with it, but they I think Andy, the Batten.
Well, I think I don't know if I remember this correctly, but I think Keith Roughton's dad was involved, had always been involved with it. Like, yeah. I think it was like a charity sort of thing, and I think he might have been volunteering there, and he was looking, you know, he was always associated with it and helping.
There's a proper stage with a proper like Wembley Arena PA rig in there now. It's amazing. Like, we should look at playing there. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's proper good.
So you wanted me to bring laser pens over to the Black Heart then?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. That's
get it on.
What we wanted to do. I've never played the Black Heart before. I know where it is, but I think I can't remember if I've been in there or not. Actually, I've been
there once,
obviously, but it's like, but not the Black Heart. But I think the Black Heart is kind of, it's got a thing happening, isn't it now? You know?
Yeah, it's one of those ones that were sadly looked like they were going to sort of go under with COVID and everything that went on, and then everyone seemed to rally around to save it. I think it's sort of that sort of well thought of a venue.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier. So how is the demoing going for album number 2?
Well, it's not even demoing. We've been in the studio.
Actually, been in the studio, yeah.
All right, cool. I thought you just sort of starting to lay stuff down.
No, like so the other day, we booked some time in the studio, and then I couldn't be there because I'd like some shows on in London, and Ron and Alex went down, and it was great. I ended up doing some stuff over Zoom, which was nice. So I still managed to get my 10 pence worth over Zoom, which is nice. You know, always got to get my say. But no, it sounded great. Like Alex did a great job, and Joe, the producer, fantastic. You know, young up and coming producer, really, that Rod's got in touch again the same way. Like Rod's got in touch with just by, you know, reaching out, you know, on socials and finding out who's recording what, and he's kind of put this band in America that Rod's really we've got really friendly with. It was probably one of the first bands, wasn't it?
Yeah,
in America, called Alter Apex. They're great. And so we're sort of doing a cover of one of their songs. Are we allowed to say that, Rod? Yeah, we can say that.
We can say that. I'm sure it'll be public knowledge by.
We might even stick it. We might even stick it in the set for the, because we were like, we should probably do a cover.
Yeah.
You know, and then we were like, what should we cover? We looked about, and we were like, why don't we just cover like a band that's like unknown? So people probably think it's our song, but it's not. But it's a good song, you know. Anyway, no. So the recordings. So Rod and Alex went down the other day, and on Monday, and we just like bashed out 5 tracks, really, didn't you? Just drums, and then the rest we can kind of do it. I can do a lot of it here, and then Rod can do a lot of it at home, and you know, it's great, you know.
Yeah, we're lucky. Like, again, it's probably benefits from being a little bit older and having accumulated a huge amount of recording equipment over the last 20 years. But you know, now the tech is so accessible and so good, you know, we record it from home. I mean, for us, this whole project has been a real like eye-opener, and it's a learning curve. And we have to work out how we can do things in the most cost-effective way possible to be constantly releasing, so that we can be spending money on, you know, the things that are going to get our music out to a wider audience. I think maybe a year, 18 months ago, we were thinking I think we were just putting our resources in the wrong places. You know, maybe not the wrong places, but our resources were not evenly distributed, not distributed in the right way to have the maximum impact. So, you know, now I think we're a bit of a more well-oiled machine. You know, we know what we need to do in terms of putting out music. We know how frequently we need to do it. You know, we're getting back on this pretty much schedule of a new track every 6 weeks. I think we're going to be thinking very much of albums now more as kind of physical compilations. You know, it's a piece of merchandise.
Yeah.
You know, and a track every 6 weeks sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. You know, it's maybe like 8 or 9 tracks a year. You know, you can kind of get upset about maybe the whole album cycle thing is changing and it's not what it used to be. But there are other benefits to doing things the way they're doing, and that is that you can actually put out music and see how people respond to it, and see how people respond to maybe taking a different direction, trying different things. You know, many years ago, when a band would put out an album that was vastly different to their previous one or their previous in general sound, it was a huge gamble. You wouldn't know how your audience is going to react, and that could be game over for bands. Whereas now what we can do is, you know, we've been doing these like live streams on Instagram, where actually as we were building towards doing the recordings, we were just playing the demos every week. And we had people, you know, we're developing this small but growing community of people who, you know, they check in, they want to hear how the songs are progressing. So rather than kind of, you know, recording an album and then a year later VH1 do a behind the music, we're doing it in real time, you know, and it allows people to get to know us a little bit. It allows them to maybe even have have an impact in the direction the band goes. And I think that's a really positive and a really exciting thing that, you know, we're kind of embracing with open arms.
I think it's the thing, there's a lot about them, man. And equally, for those who, you know, obviously enjoy it as a whole collective and are a bit old school and want a full album, they've got that as well. You know, it's just.
Well, I think there is still that though, isn't there? You know, it's a funny one. It's we talk about it all the time, really. I mean, I'm glad we are. You know, this is very important. You know,
yeah.
Even if
I love that cover.
I love it. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Yeah. We I didn't want the Doom and Gloom album cover. I wanted the trippy LSD one. You know,
I mean, like STP Purple or something like that.
Yeah, that was the vibe.
It's exactly that type of play on what the music is. You don't really know what you're going to get with that, do you? No. In some ways. And I like that. You know?
The thing is, like, you see every so often, you know, you'll get like Instagram messages of, hey, look at my art, I'll sell you an album cover. And that's kind of what people do nowadays. Like there are incredibly talented graphic designers and artists that, you know, they just draw something up. But, you know, there's lots of grungy, metally, generic. Do you know what I mean? The sort of things.
Same sort of album covers you would expect.
Same sort of album cover. Yeah, you know,
like some goblin on the front.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love all that. I love all.
Oh, it's great. You know, it's brilliant.
You want to make a statement and you want to stand out. It's like, I think that kind of does the job. You know?
It's yellow. You're not going to miss it. You know, and that's the great thing about it. It's the guy who designed, and you know, that was sort of the instructions. Really, it was like the guy designed it. A guy called Sam. And he did the Rocket Dolls stuff as well. He's done yeah. And he does all the Skin Dread albums, I think, as well. He's done some Skin Dread ones and things like that. Let's check his like website out. At first I was a bit like, you know, when we first saw it, it was a bit like, wow. I mean, there's a different version of it as well. Like he sort of sent us like a red version of it, and that looks really cool. You know, we were kind of like, or maybe do a red vinyl, like if we sell it.
Yeah, that's what we'd hope to do. I think if it sells well enough, we'll do a run of the vinyl.
We'll sell all of the albums. We'll do a run of vinyl because vinyl is really popular. It's also very expensive to print. But it's very popular. You know,
that's the thing. They closed most of the plants down, didn't they? So
now, this is the problem. And Adele's. There's a massive waiting list because Adele's like
using up the rest of the ones that are survived.
Apparently, something like that. So. But I really, you know, I do love the album cover. I was really like,
I think something that is cool about it is we could potentially use the fairground motif again. Like album 2 could be a different color with a different fairground ride. Do you know what I mean? Like
It's got a possibility to sort of continue.
Yeah, that kind of Weezer style theme that you can, you know, you can identify the
Yeah,
band.
that's
quite
what I love
easily.
about, again, yeah, Weezer's really, actually the inspiration, some of the inspiration, Frank Out and the Rattlesnakes new album.
Okay, yeah.
Or say like, not new, it's about 3 years old now, but it was just literally, it's like orange and fades to blue.
Yeah.
Really bright. And I'm like, that's genius.
A bit
to
like
me,
that Filter album.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly like that. It just takes you off guard a bit. You're like, wow, that's a really cool, like, we could have just used our logo on a black, you know, that was one of the possibilities. Do you know what I mean? Like we could, like what Rod has behind him.
Yeah.
We could have just literally, because that we could have literally taken that. And the great thing about that logo that we have is it's great. It works on t-shirts, it works on, you know, it's that whole kind of
It's going
thing.
to work very well on trucker caps.
Trucker caps and maybe a backdrop, who knows? But yeah. But the actual, and I'm glad we got to use the logo. And the logo was designed by my friend Andrea. And you know, so we've had it for a while. It's more like a stamp, isn't it? It's more like a thing like that. But and maybe we'll probably change up the logo as well for the, you know, the next run of stuff. But I just, yeah, I think it's really cool. And then obviously the front was designed by Sam, and then Rod did all the stuff on the back, the tickets.
Oh, cool.
And Rod actually put the album all together. Like we had a look around for like sleeves, and I was kind of like talking about, oh, I didn't want it plastic. I wanted like the cardboard, like, you know, cardboard and stuff. And yeah, so
that's great.
Yeah, it was also an exercise in cost saving too.
Yeah, but it was a great exercise because you did it, and it was like, oh, there are things you can do stuff, and this goes back to the recording, you know, like these new tracks and stuff. You know, we're back in the studio, and it's like, oh, actually, I can, you know, what I did with the record, I tracked all the guitars here, but I actually took my DIs and I went to my mate's studio and I reamped the, you know, I mic'd up.
Okay.
So that's a good way of doing it. That's really cost effective because if you want a real amp rather than plugins, you can just get all your parts done at home, go to the studio and hit spacebar, and it takes half a day. So that's a good way of doing it if you really want a real amp, you know, on there, you know, stuff like that. So we managed to use a real amp on there because I was like, I just got to have a real amp. Just at least give me a real amp on the amp because everything's done with plugins nowadays.
It is, yeah. And I think when you are using at least a little bit of, for one of those real thing, you can. Not
that anyone can tell. I don't think really, you know.
Yeah, but you can tell. You wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this next batch, to be honest. There's ways of the new cover that we've done. I've done with Amp Sims, and it sounds fine. It sounds really good, but I want to do that half thing. You can kind of do a thing now where you can use your amp head, but then put it into a box, and that converts it into like digital.
Oh, okay. So you can do like half.
It's half and half. It's like a hybrid thing. So you would use your actual head, and it's called a load box.
Melting pot
right there. Yeah, and you put it, and you
My
put
favorite.
It's called a load box, like a torpedo or something like that. It's called, or something like that. And then you run it into the what's it called, the interface, and then it goes into the computer that way, and you can use like speaker simulation. So that's good. A lot of people do that. That seems to be quite an effective way of like getting it like pretty much real.
It's insane what they can do with this all, you know.
It's not gone are the days of having all outboard gear, you know. Even Chris, like, who mixed the album, you know, the man is from analog. The man mixed color and shape with his bare hands, with his bloody hands, you know, like onto tape.
They weren't bloody. They didn't work in that hard.
No, they didn't. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, he would have done it in the 90s where it was like, right, full on like that. But I went to his house to deliver an album, and I went to he's got a studio in the back garden, and in his man cave, and I just was like, where's all your stuff? Like, where's your desk? Where is everything? And he went, I don't use one anymore. I said, well, where's all your like outboard? And he goes, I don't use it. He goes, it's all in the computer. I was like, right, okay.
He was telling us stories about like things have changed massively being a mixer. He was saying, you know, up until maybe 10 years ago, you know, the record company had a decision: do they send all of the tapes over to him, or is it? And he said a lot of the time he'd travel the world because it was easier to bring him out to the tapes and to do the mix in a studio. But he said like now it's just all digital. He said like, I could do everything from home, so, which his wife is a lot happier about apparently. Though he said he wasn't sure.
Yeah, because he did currently shape. He was flown to LA to do that. He said.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But, like it's bonkers. But I mean, like, you know, you get a lot of guys that are still like, no, it's got to be on tape, and it's like, does it?
I'd love to do a track on tape and just see how much of a ball ache it is.
A massive ball ache, apparently.
Yeah.
Like Chris was saying, as you know, as an engineer and a producer, he's like, if you want to do it on tape, go do it on tape. But I don't want to be there, kind of like, you know, it's. And he's from that era, so he mixed Swagger, Guns, you know, he did all that, like Word Up and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, he just said it's great, but it's a different time and a different era. And if you want to be sitting there, that's why albums took a year to make, you know, that you can do, you said, at a touch of a button on it's not cheating, it's just being
more productive.
More productive. He did our album in 4 weeks.
Yeah, if you can cut down that time of doing it and still have that sound. I mean, I was seeing a video up of Phil Cam, the Bastard Sons, who obviously headlined Just Push Play. They were put up a video the other day, and it was them using a plugin to replicate Lemmy's bass amp, the sort of Murder One bass amp.
Yeah,
Marshall had created this plugin for it, and it fucking sounded great.
That's great. There's
arguments
against
there's a great video of Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins going through his Line 6 live rig, and you know, he basically is saying, I was very skeptical of stuff like this before, but now it is getting so close. And he was saying, like, when he would go out on tour, it said, like, because I've got all these vintage amps and whatever, I have to make a decision on what I'm going to take on the road with me, which will mean, and he said, like, with Smashing Pumpkins as well, they kind of have eras of sound.
Yeah, that's true.
So he said, what I would have to, the compromise I'd have to make is I would be able to do one era like perfect and everything else would be a compromise. But he said, like, with this new Line 6 rig, where it's all digital, he's like, I basically get 95% across everything that I do. And he said, as a cost benefit analysis, this is better for the fans, you know. And he said, it's only going to get better.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It's amazing. Like everything I do now, like in you know, any type of work I do, it's all in-ear monitors and amp sims, you know, like Line 6 Helixes, and I use them. They're great. They're really good. You know, it's like I could literally do. I did main stage download with it, like an amp sim.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, like it was just like, because we were rushed on. When you're the first band on, like no one really cares, you know, and you just go on, and it means that you're not miking things up. You just shove an XLR in, and the guy goes boop on the fader.
Yeah, fair play.
And it was really helpful, and it's really helpful to sound engineers. They love you for it. They really do. They come up to you and go, "Thank you." You know, the
thing is, it's the only limit. The only limitation is, like, for a band our size, is the front of house PA powerful of a level powerful enough to run everything through it.
It doesn't work if you're in small venues. All that stuff only works in big venues. So, you know, if you're doing like Wembley Arena, it's great. If you're doing a small club, you kind of need the amps. You need a best of both. You need like the small, you need the amps sort of taking your head off a little bit, you know. So it's tough, you know. For me, I would, you know, it's lighter. We could just tour a lot easier. You know, but it's just
like
it's only the drums that are different, you know.
I mean, it's interesting, like our sort of stand-in bass player, while we still look for a bass player, he's just got a Line 6 set up for the tour. I mean, it's actually his backup, but it's just, you know, it's, you know, what, the size of a small backpack, and then if anything goes wrong, you've got it. It's all there. And he's toying, you know, when he comes in, when we come and do the rehearsals, he's gonna have a play with it, because the benefit as well also is, like, you can have different sounds for every track, and you just one click and it's there.
Yeah, so you do, and you literally get the sounds off the record as well. You can literally program it up that you just go boop, next one, especially when I'm doing the stuff with Boy George and stuff, it's like I've got to replicate sounds from the 80s.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And certain.
Well, think about George with his kind of music has evolved massively over time.
Yeah, he's just got you're exactly right. He's got a plethora of like.
He's got more like genres in his back catalogue than Bowie, quite frankly.
He's done a grunge record. It's great, actually. It's not really grunge. It's like alternative, but it was in about 94, 95. It's really good.
Did he? I never heard that.
Yeah, it's called. I'll send you it afterwards.
Yeah, send us a link afterwards.
And he did a song. You can hear where like Marilyn Manson got his influences from and things like that. Do you know what I mean? All that kind of makeup and yeah, it's quite interesting. Like George is quite interesting like that. He's quite he's got a he's like Bowie. He loves Bowie.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of. You know, do you remember Bowie did the album? It's awesome. It's called Earthling.
It's my favourite Bowie album,
mate. It's like, and he
went
on tour and he supported 9 Inch Nails. I'm like, that's the fucking coolest thing ever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but then he did albums of that. He's always moving forward, and I think
even right up until Black Star, he was moving forward. You listen to Black Star, and it was like nothing he'd ever written before.
No, exactly. And you know, George is a massive Bowie fan, and George is exactly the same. He's like, once he's done something, he's like, boop, next. Like every album's his first, and I love that. And I think some of my favorite bands, I kind of want our band to be a bit like that, because some of my favorite bands are my favorite bands for a reason. Like Staying to the Pilots, every album's different.
Definitely.
You know, it changes, it moves.
Thing is with I think
stuff recently, which is a bit different.
I was going to say, I think the key is to move the sound of the band forward. But I think Pilots, what they do really well is that all sounds like one band. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
That's the key. Like if you do something that's just completely different. I mean, I guess our new stuff probably it's kind of weird. You know, we're pulling on different influences. Obviously, grunge is a big part of it, but you know, we've got tracks that probably are more similar to Incubus or AFI. Linkin Park are kind of starting to come in as influences of what we're doing.
We're just trying. I think the important thing is just to try it and write the song. And if that's how you're feeling that day, just write it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, don't use it. There's no like. I don't think you should hold yourself to like any boundaries with music and stuff like that. Okay, like we're not going to write like a jazz record.
No, you know, but equally, there's going to be light and shade within your band as Just a Ride within the.
Well, we were talking about like, because like as much as this album it is great, it's like, and we're really proud of it. We were like, you know, maybe we should like lighten up a bit on the next. You know, we've just sort of made every song just.
Oh yeah, it's wall to wall bangers, isn't it?
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it's great. It even Release Me is like, it's quite intense.
Well, we were talking about that being Release Me being like the ballad, and then like
it's not really.
It starts with jump, 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 jump.
It's a really crunchy riff.
Yeah,
and that was like Eddie. That was like Eddie's like our original bass player. Like that was a song we all kind of wrote together. Like, you know, we sort of reworked it, and it was one of his tunes. But and the new record, we were like, well, you know, we're already thinking like, well, maybe the next record we could do something a bit. I don't know. Like I keep going about Morning View by Incubus. I'm always like, oh, I love that record. And
this one, that is a good record.
You know, just not still have like moments of heavy, but still lighting up at the same time. You know,
it's that thing, isn't it? I mean, it's in the day, it's your band. Just a Ride is your sound, and it is made up of the influences from across yourselves.
Yeah, it's not just Staying to the Pilots. Even though I'm sat here with like a Staying to the Pilots t-shirt. Sorry about that. I was literally, I didn't wear it for this interview. I just literally was wearing this today. But it's you know, we are a mix. We'll never really sound like them or anything like that, because we are a mix of everything. You know, they're a mix of Zeppelin, and the reason they sound like they sound is because they're a mix of their music they listen to. We're going to be a mix of whatever we listen to, you know, which includes them, but it also includes just a wealth.
Yeah, like I don't want to sound horrible, but you know, you don't want to end up in that, like you don't want to be Greta Van Fleet, who are a great band. They're amazing players. The guy's got a hell of a voice, but you just listen to that and you go, you just want to be Led Zeppelin. Do you know? It's.
Whereas with us, I think we just sort of nod. You can sort of hear the nods to our favorite bands, maybe. You know,
I think that's a really difficult position to be in, because they do have they've got some great tunes. I think it'll be interesting. I'd like to hear, you know, them in 3 or 4 years' time. You know, when they've maybe come into their own.
I think that's the thing. I think they're quite young guys still. Yeah. I think that they're still finding their feet.
Sure, yeah.
the what I heard off the last album, I did a mate of mine does his Beyond the Vibe podcast, and we sort of collaborated for the radio show and did a best albums of 2021 type thing. And one of the albums that he put out there was the last Greta Van Fleet record, and I'll be honest, it was one that passed me by. And it was one of those ones that it was one of the few out of the 10 we sort of had different ones in different positions, and some overlapped or whatever. But it was one of the few that I didn't actually buy, and I thought, well, you know what? If it meant that much to someone whose music opinion we normally line up on, I'm gonna go buy it. And it is an album where you've got to really soak it up, because I think they've tried to get away from the Zeppelin sound. They've gone more folky. They've gone a little bit more progressive in their tone, a little bit more Rush-esque in places.
It wasn't just like they nodded to Led Zeppelin. They just sound like it. It was just a bit. For me, it was a bit like
the first album. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Who's that band that used to sound like AC/DC? I was just like Australian.
Airborne.
Yeah, I was like,
they're a great band though. Like, they've got some great songs, but it could be an AC/DC tribute
but it's
band.
just, to me, that's just plagiarism. Like, I don't know. Like, people go like, oh yeah, no, we're just influenced by them. It's like, yeah, I get it, but at the same time, you haven't gone out your way to be like original in the slightest.
Two bands writing the same album over and over.
Yeah,
it's a good album though. Like, it's a great record. I love it.
It's a great record that AC/DC could have written too, but it's like you'll always get that thing where it's like, I don't know. Like,
I don't know. I think there's some bands, isn't there, that
too much like plagiarism there. Like,
I think there's some bands that will fully sound like they're influencers because maybe their music taste isn't as vast as they like to think it is, and they have only got one sort of ingredient in the pot, as it were. And there's other bands that listen to all sorts of stuff. Their members listen to all different sort of things, and it all goes into a melting pot. So, like you say, you just get those little nods.
Well, I think that's what it is. Like, with us, we are going to just sound like how we. I think with this record, I don't think it sounds like anything that's out there right now, and that kind of makes me kind of happy, because it's not like I've gone down a classic rock route or like any sort of just. Yeah, I don't know. Like it wasn't like I purposely went out and tried to write something different, but it was just that was the music in my head, or that's the music, And with Rod, how me and Rod write and things like that. That's just how it works, That's Rod, with Rod's voice and his melodies, and it just works, it's great, And Rod writes like the way I write with melodies in mind, but I then I'd only tell Rod what they are if I don't like his melodies that he's written. And
it's to build on top as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you
add a layer.
Add a layer and go, oh shit, I didn't think about that. And then sometimes you can take those melodies and you can make different parts with them as well.
Yeah. And then Rod will be like, oh, chop the song up and shorten it, like to make it work with his melodies.
Yeah, I am a bit of a chopper.
Yeah, because I tend to write my songs tend to be about 5 minutes, and it's like we could probably chop that back a bit,
Let's not indulge. We can do that live. We can do that live. What
was that song? Song around No Way Out. It still comes in at like we kept chopping it back, and it still comes in at like 4 minutes 30.
There aren't even that many parts. Like, I don't know how.
No, we can't get it like.
My only thing about that song is it doesn't feel like it's that long. So everyone's having.
Yeah, that's true. That was one of the early ones. That went on for a while. That was a 5-minute 40 song at one point.
Yeah, it's a good track live though, and you need some of those ones. Like it's like for
No
me,
Way Out,
No Way Out is great because it's a really simple chorus.
Crowd pleaser.
And when we play, we've never done a gig where we haven't got people able to sing along to that. It's that simple. There's no complexity to that song. It's great. And that's the thing
as well, wasn't it? That was one of the first songs we wrote as well.
I sometimes as well, like when we originally started writing together, you're like, you have way too many words. Like, cut it back, cut it back, cut it back. Like, you've got a melody, let the melody do the work. You don't need to put in 40 syllables. So No Way Out was a really good one of that. And I think sometimes I overthink it. You just want simple sticks.
It all comes down to simplicity. Things can sound complicated, but actually they're not that complicated. It's like, every song, like when you're young, you just want to put 90 riffs into a tune.
Oh god, yeah.
And it's like that doesn't work. You take one riff and you build it around that. And you know, if you want to go down to prog world, you can do all that, I guess. But it's we're not that band, you know. Like I think we have interesting moments. I try not to be so power chordy all the time. I try to like elaborate like chords and be a bit, you know, I don't know, just try and be a bit different. I think we've started to find our feet. I'm looking like with some of we were sort of, me and Rob were joking the other day, we were sort of saying about, we've kind of got these things we say to each other now, like, oh, do you want a grain by grain, and like there's like, you know, like the BVs, and like we look at there's loads of really cool, interesting BVs, I think, in this record that Rod came up with. Like, some really nice moments. And that goes back to the Aerosmith thing actually a little bit. Like, I always think that with Steven Tyler, like when you actually listen to what's going on, there's so much like his voice is coming in and out, these weird BVs happening, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
and I really love that. Rod's done that on like on this record, like certain songs, especially some of the late ones we started writing. It was like, oh great, like you might not necessarily do it live, but it just adds such a nice thing to the song.
That's the texture.
Yeah,
texture. It's like texture, really, rather than lyrically, like, you know, genius. It's just a lovely thing.
It's funny you mentioned Steven Tyler, because he's always someone I think about when you kind of do those sorts of things. And it's almost like sometimes some of the BVs are like a barbershop quartet, but it's just, I see like the voice as like it's just another instrument.
Totally.
You know, it's not, you know, one take all the way through. You can really do things and play with things and think of really interesting harmonies. You probably don't even know they're there, but they're adding something. You know, they're again, it feels more like it's a backing instrument. You know, you can really layer things out. It's pretty cool.
I think it's always interesting when bands do that. Obviously, we were saying, you know, I'm a big Aerosmith fan, and we're saying the vocal harmony Steven Tyler does, and you're just thickening up that sound. It's adding those other textures to it, like you say, and it just makes it a bit more interesting. Like you say,
you don't have to do it live. You know,
no,
it's just nice for the record.
Most of the time.
No, of course they don't. No, but it's just nice to kind of have these things that pulls your ear in a certain direction. Like, wow, that's cool that they did that, or like on the record, or
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's great. It just adds to the song, you know.
Definitely. So, are there any other songs off the album that you haven't performed live yet that you're really looking forward to?
No, you know what? We did when we played in London. We actually played the whole record, didn't we?
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah.
It was the only time we've ever done it, and probably on tour we'll probably perform most of the record, 90% of it, I would say, because you've got to fill it out, you know, because it's not actually a long album. Like, it's probably only it's only 10 songs, and it's like 40 minutes long or something, you know. So,
but that's a good length of a set for a first time touring band.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I think, you know, you've got to be realistic about things. Like, I think we can do a short and sharp headline set. We'll probably do the cover of So Yeah by Alter Apex. We also we've got a couple of new songs as well that we might throw in here and there, maybe a 12 song set max. You know, we've got a tune called Last Man Standing.
We do Last Man Standing, which is like a song we've had for a while, which should probably go in the next batch of songs, but it didn't really fit this album, but I think it's going to fit the next batch of songs. But
you know, we're primed as well. Like, you know, we're really, you know, we can do a hell of a support slot too as well, you know. And, you know, I don't mean that, you know, we talk about like there being a community and whatever. It's not about like, oh, we want to upstage anybody or whatever. But I think you know, if we do a support set and we do 6 songs, I think we can play 6 songs that really give people an impression of the range of the band and excite people and get them wanting more. And I think that's the most important thing.
It's it. I mean, like, even if you're doing a support set and it's like, it's not a competition thing, it's your band and you're proud of it and you want to go out and win. You know, you want to go out and show people what you guys are about. And that doesn't mean you want to knock anyone else off their perch. It just means, you know, you're there to showcase yourselves as much as anyone else.
100%.
I think there's one band Drew wants to knock off their perch, but we won't go into that.
No, we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
So what does the rest of the year hold up for you guys, other than obviously tour and
playing your festival, your awesome festival?
Bless you. Thanks for playing.
We've got some other festivals. Dementia Fest, playing that, the awareness.
Oh, cool. You're for Dementia Wales. Good guys.
Yeah, we're up for that. I think this year is just about building the band, you know, as much as we can, just getting out there, playing as much as we can, and then for next year we'll be sort of a bit more primed for, like, you know, the proper festival season.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, we've been spending, let's say, 2020 and 2021 kind of building the virtual fan base.
Mm.
And I think now it's about turning those virtual connections into real life connections, while still, you know, looking at, you know, our fan base as a fan base that's around the world. You know, I'm just hustling. Hopefully we'll get the Black Heart gig on the 25th of Feb, or tonight, depending on when you're listening, is
tuning in.
it's going to be live streamed. We're just waiting to get that 100% confirmed, but that would be great so that we can again reach more people and do more things like that. And we'll look at what we can do to live stream as much as possible to grow the outside of the UK audience, because that's really important to us to you know, continue to grow and to give us the opportunities on platforms like Spotify to really amplify your music and get it put in front of as many new faces, or get into as many new ears as possible. But in the UK, the goal is, let's play as many shows as we can, let's make an impression, let's make connections with people. And it's really so that in 2023, when all the big, you know, this great rock community in the UK, there's great rock festivals, and it's just about hitting those up and getting on those. I mean, we are confident in our ability, we're confident in our material, and, you know, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't look at you know, bands who are great role models to us, like Scarlet Rebels, like Those Damn Crows. Look at the amazing success.
Massive Wagons,
you know, brilliant. You know, even Inglorious as well. You know, these are bands. You know, The Treatment. Like, these are British bands that are getting out there. They've got solid followings, and, you know, I think if we continue what we're doing and we stay on the right path, there is literally no reason why we should be aiming to be, maybe not next year, maybe not the year afterwards, but we want to be on that level. And I don't think there's any reason why we can't be.
I don't think there's any reason why you can't be, dudes. From the moment I heard, you know, trying to think, the first track you sent me across, that wasn't Razor, was the one you said before that?
I Want to Know.
Yeah, I Want to Know. That was the first one I heard.
Yeah, that was the first one. That one sets up the album. You know, that was the one that sort of me and Rod wrote, and we were just like, aha, I think we've got.
Is that the moment when you guys started writing together again that you thought, this is, you know, where we go?
I think it cemented the direction. Definitely.
Yeah, it was just one of those songs where you go, like, it came together so easily and it's so quickly, and like literally I've got the demo, and I literally, there's the only difference is the producer said change the drum beat at the end. He just doubled up the drums, and that was it. But the actual song itself,
I think one thing I remember about that song is when I first kind of came on board on the project, you sent me Standing Here.
Was that there?
No, it wasn't. So you sent me Standing Here, and then I sent you back what I did, and it was like, okay, cool, here are some others. And I think we had like 3 other tracks. One of them was No Way Out. One of them was Fallen, and one of them was Release Me, and there was another one. You know, the one that we were like, oh, it's going a bit too Kiss in the 80s. That right. So I was working on those, and I Want to Know was, you know, it was one of your old riffs, but it was the first time you sent something that wasn't in just that original batch of what you and Eddie had been working on.
Yeah,
that's why it sticks out for me. And I heard it, and it was just like, it maybe took an hour to write and record all the vocals, and I just sent it back.
I've got the original demo. I'll have to send it to you, Lee. I've still got these.
Yeah, man, great to hear that.
Yeah, like I've got the original riff from when I recorded it it's a really old riff, like when I was like 19. I just found it on a mini disc somewhere. And I was like, oh, that's one of my riffs. Like, I was in LA at the time, and I went to guitar school out there. And what I did, like, everyone else is really boring as guitarists. They'll just be like, all these guitar players, they'll just play guitar all the time. And I was just like, well, I'm in LA. What am I going to do? And I thought, there's a 24-hour lockout in the studio. We didn't really have, it was 2002 or over 2003. Yeah. And I bought a 4-track tape cassette recorder from a local pawn shop down the road, and an SM58. And I just played the drums, played the guitar, played the bass, and I was like, right, there's my riff. And that was it. And I kept that riff there for like ages and ages. And I just sat on some of these riffs, like, you know, they are, some of them, I'm like, I find them, I'm like in my computer or my phone, I'm like, why have I not used that one yet? And they just stay there for like years and years and years, like cooking away, like being, you know, and then I write a song around it and send it to Rod. Rod's like, it's great, or like, you know, and that's basically how that song. I can't really remember. I'm rubbish at remembering stuff like that, like the writing process. But I remember that riff, but I don't remember doing the demo. But I've got the demo, so I must have done it.
You must have done it at some point.
I think what's really
my Easy Drummer demo, you know, like programmed all in.
Oh yeah,
you know, like, yeah.
I think what's going to be really cool about I Want to Know too is that's the song that the band Alter Apex for our split EP. That's the song that they're going to cover.
I'm really excited to hear that.
Oh yeah, no, me too, because we've had so much fun covering a tune of theirs called So Yeah, and one of the thoughts behind this is, you know, we're kind of almost running like a parallel journey with them. You know, we're similar ages, and we've kind of fallen back in love with music, and you know, realizing what it takes to kind of grow as a band and be successful, and both have kind of done well to kind of maybe prick the attention of the people over at Spotify. So both bands have been supported really well with editorial playlisting for releases, which is massive for new bands. I know a lot of people especially in the last few weeks are really getting on Spotify, but you know, I actually worry that if something bad happens to Spotify, it really will hurt a lot of new artists. You know, you can talk all you want about, well, should they pay artists more, you know, whatever. At the end of the day, park that to one side. Their platform is the easiest way to connect with a worldwide audience. You know, that it is for us, it's invaluable, you know. So I'll be fighting Spotify's corner constantly, and hopefully they'll reciprocate with continued editorial playlist support. But what we were thinking is, you know, both So Yeah and I Want to Know are songs that we've put out onto Spotify quite some time ago, before we kind of knew how to play the game, before we were kind of getting the traction that we're getting. And we thought, you know, as two bands together, wouldn't it be great if we covered each of our kind of first songs that we put on the platform? Because if they get picked up, it's, you know, it's bringing attention to, you know, to both bands, and to really bring people into our catalogs as well. So it would be an interesting split as well, because I believe, and I could be wrong because it's not all being confirmed, but I believe the split EP will be our cover of So Yeah, their cover of I Want to Know. They'll have a remix, I think, of their song Tie the Raven, which is another old song that they had, and ours will have the album version, which is the Chris Sheldon mix of I Want to Know as well. So, you know, the release is penciled in for April 8th. You know,
I'm glad we're sort of re-releasing that song a little bit again, because it's like, you know, we've got the video for it, you know, it's a banger, but like now we're a bit more further down the line, we can kind of sort of revisit it, and like, you know.
Well, I mean, I like, you know, something we're going to talk about with Emma, our radio plugger, tomorrow is, you know, we're putting out a music video for Standing Here, which and Standing Here in terms of pitching to Spotify is very much the single that leads the album. Again, it's a cool track. It's the first track that I wrote. You know, it was my audition tape essentially. And it's another one that's very similar to what the demo was. But maybe we think, well, okay, we just need an album to take to radio. A track to take to radio to launch the album. You know, maybe we do a double pronged attack, and maybe with radio we push I Want to Know. I mean, I don't know. It's something we're going to talk to her about tomorrow. But you know, is there a song that better represents the album? I'm not sure there is. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, it has gone out to Spotify, it has gone out to that audience, but I think, you know, it was taken to radio early in the lockdown. And you know, it was when we didn't have as, you know, I'm not saying we've got a big profile at the moment, but our profile was certainly a lot smaller. And I think off the back of Not Enough, which has performed really, really well, I think either single do well, but it'd be interesting to get her kind of take on, you know, do we diverge?
I mean, like you say, it goes with it being the first single when you guys were really starting to push yourselves out there at the beginning, you know, like a couple of years ago when I first heard it, all the way through to now, where, like you say, your profile, you know, you're a growing band, you're going to grow, that's the end of the day, but, you know, your profile's bigger than it was, you know, Not Enough. It was great to see how well that was doing across, especially on the video views and all that I was seeing of it. Yeah, that'd be interesting to see, you know, if how people who might not have heard I Want to Know first time round would receive it.
Yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. So, but we'll do the Chris Sheldon mix version of it. I think it'd be quite. I mean, maybe a new video, just like some kind of using some live performance footage and things like that. You know, just something different. You know.
Yeah, mix it up.
Mix it up a bit. You know.
Oh, why not, man? Well, like before we wrap it up, I just want to say thank you guys for playing.
Oh, thank you.
Play before.
Oh, mate, no worries.
We've
been really looking forward to it. Do you know what? When you asked us, I was like, oh wow, we're gonna play, and then I looked, it was like, oh, 2022. Oh man, we got a while to wait for that one.
We're probably in about 4 months away from it. You're like, oh yeah.
I know. Well, time just disappears.
I don't know. It's absolutely mad. Yeah,
it's gonna be great, and like there's some. I mean, I'm really excited. You know, Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons is going to be awesome.
Yeah, some great bands, mate. And it's a great venue. Every time I see the pictures, I'm always jealous. I'm like, oh, I really want to play that venue. So
I'm really lucky with the venue we got. I really am, man. And the sound crew and the tech guys over there are absolutely second to none. They're brilliant. I don't ever have to. Not that I'm from a tech background, I'm not, but I've never had any problems with them whatsoever. They're the best over there. I'm really lucky with the venue that we've got. I could never, you know, this is you guys know the background to it being for my dad and everything, and it started off, you know, back room of a pub 6 years ago, and now we're playing somewhere like that. So it's pretty mental for me. So any band that ever, you know, gracious.
Well, everything's got to start somewhere. It's like all festivals, don't they? Like the first Reading festivals, like, you know, the first Glastonbury and all that kind of stuff. It all starts somewhere. You know? It
all starts somewhere, man. But I'm always grateful to anyone who gives me their time and play. So thank you, dudes, for playing. I can't wait to have you on the. No, can't wait to have on the Just Push Play stage. I'm really looking forward to, you know, seeing you guys. I'm going to come down the Blackheart show. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to the album being released. At the beginning of the show, let's see, what can we play? Let's go with Who You Are at the beginning for my personal choice. But at the end of the interview, what would you guys want us to air out on?
Let's go. I Want to Know, but off the album. Do you want to do that, Rod, or do you want to go something else?
Yeah, no, I want to know. I think that's a great one.
Yeah, because it's just, you know, it's us.
Yeah,
it's very us, you know.
All right, I'll lock that one into the interview then, guys. And thanks for your time as always, dudes. Good to talk to you.
No worries, man.
No worries, mate.
Cheers, bud.
Cool.